Hey everyone, welcome back to Bug Smashers. We are on episode 3, and let's get ready to smash some more bugs. Logo. Bug Smashers! Hey everyone, we are in my fancy dancy test level again, all nice and spacey. And we're going to look at a interior bug that's happening with a couple of our ships. We're just going to look at the Aurora for now. And if you see this little orange box, that is our vehicle interior. Right now it's defined as a bounding box, but we have some tech that we're working on where it will form fit the actual interiors. And what this interior is exactly is basically our local entity grid, or physics grid. So when you get in this and the ship moves, you move along with it, or if you have gravity inverted or have gravity on, it will form fit your position inside the ship. So that is our interior code. So for right now, it's just bounding box. Anyway, if I were to enter the ship, it's playing the exit animation. Not good, not good. It should be playing the enter, not the exit. So what's happening and why? Code. So here we have our little section of code that handles what happens after the door is opened or closed. And that's this door right here. So when I hit F, the door opens, and then I'm supposed to play an enter animation. Or if I move around or look around, it aborts the animation and the door just opens and I don't go in or out of it. And what happens is if I were to hit F and I move my mouse just a little bit, it will call in passenger and tell it to exit, because as I'm trying to get in, I'm moving and it's supposed to abort because it's like, hey, I don't really want to go in there, I just want to open up the door, so don't put me in. But it will still call this function to do a lot of cleanup. And unfortunately, the transitions are enabled by default 100% of the time, which is kind of a problem. The reason for this is if I copy and paste all the things. Let's find our interiors on the release build. Here we go. So this is the release build. This is the code that you guys have now in playing. And if you notice here, the transition is only enabled if this remote usage is set. But on here, it's set to always true. And what happened was, there was a huge vehicle seat refactor, and this remote usage was actually removed. This remote usage is actually some legacy code back when in Crisis 2, I guess, that they used, and it was never actually used in our code, except for this little section. The remote usage was mostly used as a kind of a hack to determine whether or not you should play the transition or not. So since the remote usage was removed everywhere in the code, when it finally got here, it was just set to return true because, well, someone assumed that transition should be always enabled, which we may not want. So we are going to add a little bool to this int passengers so we can determine elsewhere if we want this transition enabled. So let's find all the locations. So when I'm done entering, we want to pass whether or not we want to do the transition animation. And when we're exiting, we want to determine whether or not we want to pass the transition. And that's the only two spots. So let's give this a recode compile. Oh, I love recode. So as this builds, what we should see is if I hit F, move my key, it should do the cleanup code to make sure that I'm not in the interior, and then nothing should happen. I should be able to just walk around and do nothing. No exit animation should play. Now if I hit F and do not touch anything, it should do the steps to bring me into the ship. So let's hit F and then move and shake all about, and look at that, it doesn't bring me in. Woo! did the cleanup code correctly. So let's try that one more time. Whee. Now if I don't touch anything, it should bring me in. And I walk in. So it is correctly bringing me to the interiors, and I could exit the interiors if I so desire. Yay, magic doors. All right, that cleans up that bad boy. Funny enough, this bug also had an issue with the, I think it was with the cutlass. There's a ladder on the side, and if you walked up to the ladder, you would enter the interior, which would which would force you to do the enter animation, because the interior transition was set to enabled always true. So you could walk into an interior or walk out of an interior, and the transition would force an animation when we don't want that to always happen. We only want transitions to happen when you're actively hitting the F key as you're transitioning in there, rather than you just walking up to it or walking out of it. Then it shouldn't play the transition animation. And there we have it. Everything works as expected, and slowly unbreaking things for the next release. Cheers. So today's bug was to deal with the transitions, and, well, I should say the vehicle interior transitions. When you enter and exit them, it should only play an animation when you're specifically hitting the use key and entering a door or exiting a door. But if you were to fall through a transition or fall out of a ship, it shouldn't play those transition animations. And it was just a bug that got introduced during a huge refactor of some, I think it was the seat code. Some stuff like this creeps in once in a while, where you do these huge changes and you make one little tiny mistake and it changes like a whole bunch of things. Happens all the time. We just have to fix them up, and that was one of the things that you guys got to see but never witness in person. Last week I asked you guys to send me some questions, and I'm just going to go through a few of them, quick and simple, and let's get to it. All right. So we have a couple from Digital Pimp. Good name. What development method do you guys use? So we use mostly Agile and Scrum. Scrum is once in a while we'll get together in a little group and just quickly say, hey, what we're doing now and what we plan to do. Agile is basically continuous development. We'll use Jira, we'll talk to people on Skype, we'll do little mini meetings and so on. It's a bunch of little things. Or when in doubt, we just run to the other person and yell at them at their desk. Next question from Digital. What software do you guys use to manage development process? The two big ones, well, three, is email, Skype, and Jira. Let's see. What source control do you use? Perforce. It's actually pretty awesome. Let's see. Does your team use continuous integration or continuous development? Right now we use continuous integration, which is we're constantly adding stuff to and from Perforce. Daily people are checking in stuff, and I think we're working towards continuous development where we have branches so that we could all merge stuff into a staging, and then that staging will get merged into the actual good build. So that way if we break something in staging, we fix it before it gets into everything else. We're not quite there, but we're setting that up now. All right, let's move on to the next ones from HoloVision. Let's see. HoloVision asks, are there other smashers at CIG or just smasher Padwin learners, the bug breeders, that have not achieved the true Master's End level? Do you keep a list of whose bugs you fix the most often, and so do you make them buy you lunch? Ha! All right, so to answer the first question, I am not the only bug smasher. I am just the bug smasher seen on camera. We have bug smashers in every single studio. In fact, in this studio, I'm not the only bug smasher. We have Oka smashing graphics bugs. We have Brandon smashing gameplay and hug bugs. We have Chad smashing AI bugs. And we have Paul, our lead, smashing everything you can imagine. Poor him gets every single thing. And then I get to smash breakfast after this. Then we also have people in UK studios smashing bugs for both, Squadron 42 and for Arena Commander. Then you have the German studio working behind the scenes on some engine stuff, and they're smashing bugs. So we have people from every single studio working on bugs. All right, last guy, One Tooth. Can you perhaps explain the concepts of the game engine and multi-threading, and perhaps elaborate on event handling? So I'll answer those quite quickly. A game engine is basically a big, gigantic software package that has everything you need to make your game. It has the stuff to render, stuff for multiplayer, stuff for actually developing the game, for keyboard input, things like that. It's the bare bones you need to make the game. Multi-threading is, you could think of it as, if I were to write down an essay, it would be single-threaded if I'm just writing down one piece of paper. But if I were able to write with both of my hands on two different pieces of paper, that's multi-threading. It's doing two tasks at the same time. And it gets a lot more detailed than that, but feel free to Google. And the last one was event handling. So event handling is, say, I have died, then I notify everyone that I have died. Well, you could also do one step further where you say, all right, I'm going to register the events. So if I have died or I've got shot or anything like that, I want to listen to those events. So when the player dies, he goes all of his events listeners and says, hey, I've died, hey, I've died, hey, I've died, and tells them. So you could do some nifty things like when the missile explodes, do this. When someone has clicked this button, do this. So that is essentially event handling. It's a lot better than having an update function where you're constantly checking something. Instead, you could just go, all right, when this happens, then do it. All right, so that was today's fun little quick questions. If you guys have any more, I'll try to answer them next week. Till then, smash. I got nothing.